Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we're discussing the Unforgiven's hunt for the Fallen, now that Lion L. Johnson has returned. General spoiler warning to begin, as today we will be referencing events from across the Warhammer 40k universe, so you have been warned. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. So on Monday we had a little discussion on the current state of the Dark Angels, now that Lion L. Johnson has been reunited with his chapter, and we've received the first little bit of information with the drop of their new codex. And while quite clearly a lot remains a mystery when it comes to the Lion's rationale, one of the most interesting areas of course was the hunt for the Fallen, the very much still continued hunt. And it was definitely an area I really wanted to discuss a little more, so that's exactly what we're doing today. Now, when the Lion initially returned within his novel The Lion Son of the Forest, we saw a Lion L. Johnson who was still very much the Primarch we remembered, and yet one who was definitely scarred and changed in ways by his past. One of the first encounters the Lion had was with one of his traitor sons of Caliban, a fallen named Zabriel. And despite the Lion's immediate anger, it became apparent that Zabriel knew nothing of the heresy of Luther, and that for all he knew, it was Lion L. Johnson who had turned traitor. That he and so many other so-called fallen upon Caliban were simply defending themselves on that day. And so this revelation shook the Lion to the very core, that in his anger, in his haste, he had caused yet further tragedy, still reeling from the end of the heresy. And so ensuring Zabriel never knowingly betrayed the Emperor, betrayed the Legion, L. Johnson forgave his fallen son, and thus began the Risen, the Redeemed Fallen. And throughout the Lion's journey prior to his reunion with the chapter, we would see him assemble more of his former lost sons, intent on bringing them in out of the wilderness. And so it certainly gave rise to a little questioning on how L. Johnson would deal with the Unforgiven's hunt of his lost sons. Far from the lenient offer of redemption, forgiveness for those who had not betrayed the Emperor on Caliban, the Dark Angels and Unforgiven's hunt for the Fallen is legendary for its brutality, its uncompromising nature. The Fallen are hunted across the length and breadth of the galaxy, wherever they are, whatever they are doing. Once found, they are captured, with everyone who had bore witness to their existence slaughtered, regardless of innocence. And from there the Fallen will find themselves taken to the cells within the depths of the rock, where they will be tortured until they confess their sins. Given the Lion's actions and intent with his Risen, it's quite surprising in a way to see the hunt for the Fallen continued, especially in this same vein. Now he is reunited with the chapter. Of course, the hunt for the Fallen was always going to remain in some manner. I certainly felt it was far too integral to the Dark Angel's character to be removed entirely. But I have to admit I was a little surprised to see the full torture chamber, interrogation, in full deadly effect still. The seeming difference now, however, is that sometimes the Lion will enter the cell, call a halt to the proceedings, and then speak with the Fallen in private. At times he will open the door once again after several hours, informing the chaplains to continue. In others, the captured Fallen will be vanished, but the Lion's intervention within the proceedings is said to be very rare, which implies often the hunt simply remains as it always has, the fallen guilty no matter what they say, and tortured to death. So, is this a surprise or not? As there was a moment within Son of the Forest where L. Johnson was speaking with an assembled group of fallen, his so-called risen, and we got this very definitive passage. "Are you here to kill us?" asked the leftmost Dark Angel as the lion looks at them. He holds a melter gun and does not sound either angry at the notion of dying or eager about the prospect of a fight. Again, adds another, second from the right. The lion has already marked him as Knight Captain Gwaine by his bionic right arm, but the voice would have given him away in any case. "I am not here to kill anyone," he says, and he speaks of what he has learned, of the treachery of Luthor and Astalan, and others allied to them, but of how he has since found sons who he believes had no part in or knowledge of the attack. He speaks of Kamarth and Avalus, and he speaks of his purpose. "If you wish me to, I will leave you in peace," he finishes, "and I will attempt to make those sons of mine who wear the mantle of Dark Angels in this time do the same. The only exception is if you prey upon humanity and continue to do so." So L. Johnson was clearly of the mind here that he was going to stop the hunt, or at least in some way give it a major overhaul. That there were going to be fallen out there who would be left alone. And as incredulous as that sounds on what we know of the current Unforgiven, perhaps that could have happened. The codexes are always pretty vague on actual reasons and meanings behind events, and that's even stronger with this particular codex and L. Johnson. It's highly possible when we get some real insight in future novels that we'll see L. Johnson has made it clear to Azrael that not all Fallen were complicit, or even aware of Luthor's betrayal. And so that now maybe there's a lot more nuance in the hunt than there was previously. That not all Fallen are indeed found and slammed into cells. Perhaps the redeemed Fallen, the so-called risen, wink wink nod nod inner circle companions, are conducting their own hunt. The simple approaches to fellow legionaries they knew and encountered over the years. It's certainly possible. And I think that in some way could be very likely, at least from the lion we saw in the novel Son of the Forest. However, it's inescapable. The Codex does seem to lay it clear. The hunt is very much the same. The Dark Angel's treatment of the Fallen, the same, save for the lion's rare interruptions. And you've got to think, the lion's not always going to be on the rock. He's busy travelling and fighting across the Unforgiven. He could be halfway across the galaxy elsewhere. So he's surely not likely to be able to witness every Fallen found and interrogated. So it does certainly feel, at this very much vague point I admit, that he's content for the hunt to continue as is. So, what changed if this is right? What changed in the lion's opinion? Well, perhaps it was L. Johnson's encounter with a true traitor Fallen, Seraphax, a chaos sorcerer, and said to be one of Luthor's favourites. Here L. Johnson saw the truth of what the Unforgiven hunt. The betrayers, the corrupt, the stain on the former First Legion. Something he himself knows is something that cannot be allowed to continue to exist. That is a sin, a heresy against not only his father, but the mantle of his former legion. And so perhaps he has realised a simple approach and offer isn't the sole way he can root out the true fallen from the risen. That he needs to be sure those he brings into the Unforgiven are indeed not corrupted. It doesn't quite feel right with the lion we saw in the Son of the Forest, the lion we just read in that passage. However, we do have to take in mind we didn't really see anything of him after that interaction with Seraphax. Simply him gaining his shield in the forest pathways, and then Dante's arrival. After that it was off to the Arcs of Omen, and now the Codex. So it is definitely possible the lion realised a stronger approach is necessary. That he can't simply leave other former legionaries out there somewhere across the galaxy. That he has come to realise how insidious the ruinous powers can be. How far some of his sons have truly fallen. No pun intended. And that, unfortunately, his modern day sons could well be right. I'm sure we'll get the answers in whatever next Lion novel comes our way, but at this point it's hard to say which is the more likely. I think we'll definitely find out more changes have most likely been implemented than first appears here in the Codex. I certainly can't see L. Johnson condoning the killing of innocents who have witnessed the Fallen, for example. And L. Johnson doesn't sweat being excommunicated. He knows his loyalty. He knows he is a son of the Emperor. The Unforgiven aren't going to be excommunicated now the Lion has returned. I also think we'll probably witness some inner thoughts of Azrael, coming to terms with the revelation that not all Fallen truly were traitors. And so the interrogations perhaps will be more genuine interrogations, rather than the simple path to confession they've always been. But hey, this is the grimdark we're talking about, and Asmodai is still prowling those darkened corridors. With us being told the Lion still leaves the cells, sorrowfully ordering the interrogation to continue, it's clear that a darker element does remain. So maybe that encounter with Seraphax did just change L. Johnson's thinking on the matter slightly. The only thing I can say for certainty is I hope that next novel isn't too far away. That we need to get some concrete answers. To see the real goings on amongst the halls of the Rock. But as always everyone, what do you think? How do you think the hunt for the Fallen has changed? Do you think the Lion has implemented more changes than at this moment there appears to have been? Or do you think he has allowed the hunt to remain as is? And if so, why? Why has there been a change from the Lion we saw within the Lion Son of the Forest? Was that encounter with the fallen Seraphax an awakening of sorts? A realization in the Lion that the hunt actually is necessary? That the claws and manipulations of the ruinous powers are not so easy to root out? As always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.